Okay. I'd like to I'd like to thank everybody for coming today. Um, Thank you, everybody. I'd like to welcome Brad Cushing is here today to talk with us. Uh, Part of our day here today is we're learning more. Of course, this is a DRS course for second-year medical students. And for me, nothing's better than to having someone, rather than me talking to you about something, is to have someone come in here and talk to us about the things they've experienced. And so, Brad, I can't thank you enough for coming in today.
Oh, thank you, guys.
I mean, I'm proud Brad is here. Brad is a U.S. veteran. He's going to talk about his story. Thank you for coming and showing respect. At the same time, we have a camera that's rolling, besides filming for our purposes, we have a camera rolling down here. And this was because Brad wants to use this conversation today to educate other people, to take to high schools, other places that he goes to be able to talk about what he's gone through. So in the event that we are videotaping right here, this is going to leave our university. If you don't want your voice placed on this tape, then you can hold off on taking questions or asking questions. However, I'm going to set aside 10, 15 minutes at the end of our conversation so you guys can jump in and ask questions. Okay, so be thinking about something you want to ask, because this is an opportunity. Brad is very willing to talk about anything, and he's got a lot to say. Okay, so why don't we
All right.
get started?
I am wide open. Could you guys hear me? Everybody hear me? Okay. I guess we'll start at an early age. I was about 7 when they realized that I had a problem with learning, like other children. So they do some tests. I think they're probably pretty standard, and they decided that I had ADHD and dyslexia. And they thought that the way to treat ADHD is with medication, and I think that somebody else in my family probably had a problem with it, so they didn't want to do that. Since I also had dyslexia, they thought that the problems I was having were more associated with that, so they decided not to do anything about the ADHD or ADD or whatever it is. So I continued on. So that was actually in first grade. They took me out of first grade and made me go to a transitional first grade. Until I could go to first grade the next year. And I think that probably was hard on me as a child. So, being like sort of, pulled back, everybody noticed it. And then as I moved forward, first grade, second grade, they noticed I was still having a problem, so they pulled me out of my classes and put me into a special room, like special ed or whatever. For some classes like reading and math or whatever, spelling, things like that. And I do believe that's probably why I started acting out, lashing out at everybody. My parents couldn't control me. I mean, moving up towards age 14 and 15. During that time, at about 12, I started to drink. I had my first drink when I stole 3 Rolling Rock beers out of a girlfriend's cooler, her parents' cooler, and I drank them as fast as I could inside their camper parked in their driveway. Just because I didn't want the dad to come out to catch me, so you plug them away, And I did that, and I ran out of there with a full stomach, and I went down to the beach, and I felt this sensation start coming over my body, and it was divine, And I use that word because it was. I mean, it was out of the norm of what I was, and whatever I was something that it was just undersatisfied, unhappy, sort of all the time. To talk to somebody or to have confidence was sort of it was an act. But with alcohol, I had liquid courage, and I could do anything I wanted to do. And on top of that, if I messed up, fucked that up, and embarrassed myself, I can always blame it on the alcohol. So I stuck with that for a while. I would drink on any occasion. Go into friends' liquor cabinets. I would go into my parents' liquor cabinet, and I'd fill all the liquor up with if it was brandy. If it was vodka, I'd fill it up with water and different things, Coke inside of rum. I mean, whatever. Trying to. Well, they didn't drink at the time, so my father started drinking a few years later again, and it was absolutely horrid when he. Right. So I got punished 5 years later for that, Anyway, so I was about, so after that, it took a couple years just to completely get out of control. The friends I was hanging out with, they must have started opiates already, I think, during that time, and I got sent to military school. People are punished with military school. Like, if you keep messing up, you're going to military school. Well, I'm the reason people keep saying that, because it happened to me, all right? So for 3 years, I went to military school, which was the best experience I could have had in high school. So the best thing that could have happened to me. My friends all ended up in jail or dead, unfortunately. Going down that path, and that's exactly where I would have been. I think the addiction was prevented until I had enough time and to have the means. But I excelled there. My senior year, I was battalion commander, which was number 2, and I was actually the guy in charge of the entire high school. I did well there with the structure, and the cadets kind of ran the Corps. I did well in that environment. It's like, it was like a pack of wild animals. You got to try to get on top, and I don't know, I thrived. I got out of there, and I was thinking about going to college, and I sort of somewhere in the back of my head knew that college would be an absolutely terrible decision, that I wouldn't be able to handle it. They had discipline and structure there, and then all of a sudden it's like the free world, and I can do whatever I want, and there's girls, and I'm going to get in some serious trouble. So I joined the Marines, to stay safe. Right? And then I went through boot camp, and it was 9/11 happened when I was in 10th grade, and I knew that we were probably going to get sent overseas, but I went to boot camp and I graduated. When I did, I got put into a school to learn infantry, to learn how to be an infantryman, and I got put into 1-8, Unit 1-8, which was going immediately to Iraq. And this is 2004, and I joined at the end of 2003, and it was like June of 2004. Yeah. And from there, oh my God, that was crazy. They trained us for 3 months to go to combat. I was not ready for that. That doesn't seem efficient. But so we went to training for a month maybe. We got some off time, got to see our family. But when we got overseas, it was Iraq. The first 5 months we were there, we did a lot of patrolling. We had some silly accidents. People, kids with guns and kids driving vehicles. You're gonna have casualties with that problem.
How old were you?
I was 20.
You were 20 years old.
Yeah,
Okay.
20. Because I graduated a year behind because I was, So,
Okay.
19 and then 20. But when in our 5th month, we ended up going to Fallujah, and we kind of knew this was going to come. Now, the Battle of Fallujah happened in 2004. It was in November 2004, and it was about a solid month of just non-stop combat. It was insurgents took over a city. They were pulled sort of into a city, and they were holding the city. They left flyers over this, we dropped flyers over saying that they needed to vacate because we were going to come in and take the city back. And we ended up actually doing that. So we went into the city at 5 o'clock in the morning one morning. Everywhere else we'd gone, we'd say we're coming into a town to take it. We'd go in there and there'd be nobody. It's they just cleared out. It was kind of creepy. And I was just kind of hoping Fallujah would be the same way. It was not at all. I was laying in the middle of an intersection on post the first morning, and it was early, and then as soon as the sun started coming up, I was surrounded by firefights. They were in front of me, they were to my right, they were to my left, and they were behind me. There was a tank behind me getting hit with RPGs. This was real. And I was for the first 30 seconds, you train for this. You're yeah. And then after that, you're where is my fucking mother? It's crazy. So you're there. You made the decision to be there. So it's all the political crap you could think of. There's absolutely no room for that in your head. None of it. So I have to look out for the buddy next to me. My job was point man. I was the new guy. Of course, I got the job that the other guys didn't want. And kick down the door, be the first guy in the room. The trick there is that when you go into a room, the guys are in that room and they're staring at the door, okay? And the door's light and the room's dark, all right? Actually, I'm sorry, they'd be in the room, so we kick the door down, but it would be dark in there. But when we kick the door down, there would be light. So as soon as you go into a room with anybody, you're with 2 guys. There's supposed to be more, but it's usually just 2, so myself and my battle buddy. We'd break the door down, and then we both I'd go right, he'd go left, like button hook and cross is what we call it. And we go into the corner, and the muzzle flashes in the room would start shooting towards the door. And then we just aimed towards the muzzle flashes, you see? It was a really good system. I survived, everybody, so it's all right. You know, I don't want you to worry. But so it got pretty crazy over there. I lost some really close friends that I miss today. I mean, I lost a lot over there, you know, and it was difficult. You're 20 years old. I mean, after that, like, first 5 days there, we didn't sleep at all. We couldn't. I mean, we were just on the move. And then when we got to our, when we got to the end, it was day 5, and I lost like one of my closest friends. And all I could think about is he just got married at home, and all I could think, I'm sorry, it's like fresh, you know. I mean, I've been drinking for the last, like, you know. Yeah. Anyway, I'm dealing with this. I was thinking about his wife. He was 19 years old, and he just got married, and he got killed. You know, and they said MIA, which is missing in action, over the radio. I could see the house he was in. You know, explaining that to his family that I couldn't be there because I was in my own unit. I was in my own firefight at that very moment, you know. And he was like a stone throw away getting killed. And like nobody, they say MIA, missing in action. Like how the hell can you be missing in action in a place like that when you're with your friends? Like they knew where he was. He was in the house. It's just, they don't have him with them, which means he's in the fucking room with these guys, you know. All I could think about was his wife and his family, who I knew, and that they didn't know yet. And it was just very difficult. You know, from there I lost like my other really close friend. But anyway, it got really, it got bad. We did about a week and a half of debriefing before we came home. They said, don't, they all go to the bathroom, like they shit standing up. I don't know what the medical term for that is. Anyway, they do, and so we were looking for bathrooms, like we were looking for places to go. I mean, we have to, you know. So like one of the debriefing things were like, don't poop in bathtubs when you get home, like that. Okay, you know, talk before fighting. You know, don't hit somebody before you talk to them.
So this is the debriefing
this is like,
this is when you were leaving back home backstage.
Right. So it was like a week and a half, and then we came home. Nobody thought that they were affected. Like, we thought we were fine, because you transition to these things. I mean, no matter what situation you're in, you're built to survive. You're gonna do that. Like, if you take a pig out of captivity, right, and you throw him in the woods, he's gonna turn into a wild boar. Like, instantly. I mean, it happens, like, what, over a month or two? Do you guys have any idea?
No, I don't.
This is all knowledge. No, we have Google right now, so we can look this up. All right, no, but they do, all right? So we're gonna adapt to whatever environment we're in. So we slowly adapted to this environment. And then we turn back around, and we gotta come back. Now, one of the things they said, like my commanding general, when we got over there, he said, when you get out there, you're going to see some horrible things. And you're going to lose some friends, all right? And that there's cameras rolling right now. So we had the media with us, which is like a new thing in combat. And they said, never cry outside the wire. Now, the wire is the gate. When you leave the compound, we're safe, you go out into combat. Never cry outside the wire, because you can't let the enemy see your weakness, which is sensible. I was so scared, because I am an emotional guy, as you all will know if you don't already, all right? I was so scared that I was going to cry. I called it the puke feeling. It's like, it feels like it's coming, and then boom! Like, that's it. So I was scared that it was going to happen, and I was really thinking about it, and I was somehow able to click that off, shut it off. I shut off a fundamental emotion, you know, on purpose, so I could function. And when I got home, I hadn't even realized that it was, you know, that was a one-way ticket. I couldn't turn that back on again. You know, and all my relationships suffered as a result. So, you know, I started drinking really heavy, and I got out of control, and I don't know. I mean,
When did that start when you get back? How long was it?
It was right away.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I was really looking forward to drinking when I got back.
Yeah. Well, you drink.
Everybody was, you know, Marine, aquatic, right?
When you were over in the service, were you drinking there?
No, you know what? It was illegal, I think, to drink in Iraq until we got there, and they sort of made it legal. So every once in a while, you get like a little kid that comes and goes, Mister, and you think they're gonna say chocolate instead. Whiskey, $5.
Yeah.
All right. So, so that's the only way. So like a couple of times, but.
Yeah. So you come back here
And then
you
you're,
start drinking.
yeah, and you have no tolerance, and it's just like, boom.
Yeah.
But everybody does,
Yeah,
you know,
Yeah.
and you just kind of follow the crowd.
yeah.
It just, you know, I thought that if I drank and went out of control, that I didn't want my family to know about it, so I could talk to them on the phone. They had no idea, and the girlfriends I had at home, like, didn't really know how bad I would take this. And I thought that maybe I could drink as hard as I could until like the last few days I was in, and then just quit, because I had no idea about, you know, recovery or like the DTs or like anything. You know, nobody teaches us that. You know, that should have been probably in the debrief, but they're not there yet. So, yeah, I tried to stop. I got incredibly sick. I went to the ER where they told me I had food poisoning. I really played down the drinking thing.
So tell me about that. So you went to the ER one time
Right.
because you were
And they
having...
said, well, how much do you drink? I said, I don't know, maybe a beer or two a week or something. Which in reality, I was drinking a liter of liquor a night with a 18 to 24 pack every single day. Yeah.
Okay. You
It's
guys remember
possible
that?
to consume. Right.
Yeah.
My body was like, felt like it was turning to mush, but I couldn't stop. So
Yeah.
the reason I would do as much, well, I'd keep 6 beers left over, okay? Always, I'd have to, because I needed them to go back into the store the next day to buy more booze, because I was so ashamed of having to see the same clerk that I'm buying this from, because they're gonna know I'm an alcoholic. You see how deep that goes? I mean, that's crazy. I didn't even realize that I was.
Okay.
I had no idea.
And how did that evolve? So you started with alcohol.
Yeah, I started with alcohol. I got home. I'm a big thinker. I have big ideas. I want to follow through. And I started a business that was supposed to, you know, make a lot of money. I talked really big about this. And when it came down to it, I had a bunch of 1099 subcontractors that I was ready to hire. And I'm going to sell these guys this idea. And they're going to want to go out there and do this. And I got up in front of them to speak, and I couldn't. I just couldn't do it. What's that Eminem song? One chance. Whatever. Anyway. She knows all of it. No, but so I did that, and my partner was like, "What the hell was that?
Yeah.
You can't speak." And I couldn't. I started sweating profusely, and I would panic, and I'd pass out. This was a problem.
Okay.
Somebody gave me a 15 milligram Percocet. This is why, you know.
Yeah.
And it fixed it all. I was articulate. I felt on top of the world.
Okay.
It's like the alcohol feeling would amplify. And from there, it was like having a new girlfriend that I was so head over heels in love with, that I would sacrifice everything that I could get my hands on, or that I had in my life, to maintain this relationship with. You know, I had no education about that.
Right. And how did that progress from there? Where did you
Well,
get
I lost the
from?
company, needless to say. I mean, that was going to happen. I stayed on pills. I was sniffing pills for about 1.5 to 2 years. And then at some point, my dealer got busted. I only had one guy that was selling it to me. I found another guy who had them, but he didn't sniff them. He injected the pills.
Okay.
And that,
You crush them, inject them? Is
Right.
that what you did? Okay.
and I was sniffing it for a little while, and then that sort of, you know, I didn't have enough money for enough, so I was like, maybe that'll give me a bigger high. I mean, it's exactly where you're gonna go. You think you're not gonna, you can go right to the edge, but I'll never do heroin. I'm a perk head, I'm not a heroin addict though, right? It's the same thing. And once I figured that out, then I was serious about treatment. But denial is very powerful.
What was the thing that caused you to go for a Percocet versus Oxy versus something like that?
I'm sorry, it was Oxy, 30.
Was Oxy?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
sorry, that's what it
Okay.
was. I thought they were perks, but they were Oxys. Yeah.
Different people do different things.
Right.
And
And it just happened to be where it was on the street. You gotta wait
Yeah.
for somebody to have a script, then they gotta sell it. I mean, it gets
Right.
more difficult, but it's still out there.
right.
I mean, it's out there everywhere. There are people that go to the doctor, they'll suck up the pain. You go out there and you take a 30 milligram Oxy, and you can sell it for $30. That's crazy. I mean, think about that. You get a full bottle with like 180 of them, you're making bank.
Yeah.
People fly down to Florida because you can get people down there to write big scripts, and they come back up here. It's a job. I mean, they can sustain a living doing this. Buy their own house. They have their own stuff.
Is this pretty prevalent, you think, in Boston?
It is so bad.
Yeah.
Listen, this generation, our generation is dying. Okay, like they are dying right before our eyes. These people aren't just, you know, the way we grew up. It's like a heroin addict was born like that almost. You know, the second my family knew that I was doing heroin, it was like I was a vampire. You know, that's the way they treated me. The doors were shut, the phones are off. Don't come near my kids. We're afraid you're gonna bite them, right? And that's just the way it is. We're taught like this. It's social stigma, and it's wrong. Look, these kids are smart. They're articulate. Listen, if you can put all your resources into finding one thing, okay, and you need that thing, and it's that girlfriend that you'll die for, you're gonna be pretty crafty about getting it. These kids are smart. They're good looking. So you know what I mean? Like these people are talent that this world is losing before they ever find themselves. Now, if it were doctors and lawyers out there doing it, you can be damn sure society would be doing something about it already.
You know, people sometimes don't understand how it evolves and progresses.
Yeah.
How do you get from a guy who's drinking a few beers to using heroin?
Easy. Heroin doesn't smell on your breath in the morning. I can go to my job on heroin and I don't look like I'm a drunk.
Okay.
I look like I'm doing good, in fact.
Yeah.
You know, start losing weight. Hey, man, you're looking great. And it just keeps going and going. Then you're skinny. Do I look different, Lauren? I'm sorry to call you out. Yeah. Well, thinner is not what I was trying to go for. Let me ask you that again. Just kidding. She said more healthy. Everybody.
So for you, how did it come from crushing oxys to going to doing heroin?
All right, so yeah, I mean, it's the same deal. I followed this dealer until he got busted, kind of thing. And then I knew people that had heroin. I guess I just tried something else because I didn't have enough money to get Percocets. I tried heroin. You think that, you know, and it's interesting that when I started doing heroin, the oxys I was doing were more powerful because the heroin had been cut down so much. You're not thinking about, you know, what this substance is that you're putting into your body. You're trusting your dealer to give it to you, you know, that gives it to you, and you're putting it in you. You know, we're not chemists, but we're going to do it because whatever. You think, man, this might kill me, and then you go, fuck it. Everybody gets the fuck it's. And once your life starts going to shit, it's easy.
Okay.
Yeah. Being sober was not an option. I hated it. As I told you, I didn't even know I hated it until I started drinking, but...
Can you talk about how using heroin affected your life?
Yeah, my mother, okay, I've got a family, I'm the youngest of 5 brothers, all right? And my mother put all of her attention into me. I was her baby, and I was dying. I got an abscess on my arm, which I tried to lance and take care of myself because I was in EMT and I didn't take care of it right, and it started getting really infected, and I was embarrassed about it. But I was also pretending to be sober, so I didn't want to out myself by telling people about it, you know, and then having to go treat it. So it just started getting really bad and out of hand, and then I came into the hospital, or I went into the hospital, the VA. They did surgery on it, my family were supportive, like the first time I had to do that. They were like, all right, this is all right, you know, this is a wake-up call, he's gonna be okay. I stayed in the hospital until they switched from IV pain medication to pill form, which is where everybody leaves if they're an addict, because I know I can go get something better on the street. When you're in there and they're giving you IV drugs, you're like, this is all right. I don't have to hustle. I love you guys, right? It's cool. And then you got to make the transition, and it's awful. You know, you don't want to do it. I swear up and down, I'll do everything in the world. I'm not going to go use. I'm not going to do that. The second I do, when I walk out the door, when I get bars on my phone, not even out the door, I would do it in front of my doctor. You know, I didn't, but I would have. Get my dealer lined up so he could be at my house by the time I got home. My family reached out to me. They tried to. You know, my brothers, they didn't understand it, so we disconnected immediately when they found out I was doing Percocets. My mother and my father were the last ones to really stay there. My father had a hard time with it. I mean, the way he was raised and the way I was, I mean, this is something we talked about. If one of us had a problem, the best thing to do is just to cut him off and just let him go fend for himself. And then you can't go down with the ship. You just can't let it take you down. And my father was trying to protect my family. And he and I didn't see eye to eye. We had a horrible relationship because of what I was doing. You know, I was begging my mother for money. Like I was asking for help all the time, and she would do it because she thought that I needed it because of what I was saying to her, you know? She was dying, man. I mean, I was dying, and I was bringing her down. She had faith. She believed in God. She had, you know, her church, and she is the most spiritual person I know. And she told me after this that this almost broke her completely because she did nothing but pray for me the entire time. She sees me depleting away to nothing. Your kid is dying. This kid that you had so much, I don't know, you had so many plans for. You just knew. You knew he was going to do well in life, and then you see this kid just a shell. Like, I'm inside my body. I'm looking at my parents, asking them for money, and really, I'm like, can you read my eyes? I'm asking for money, but I'm saying I'm fucking dying. Can you do something for me? Because I can't control my hands. They're trying to kill me, you know? It was terrible. She was crying every time I saw her. They almost split up. My family almost went to shit, like everything, and I didn't care. I didn't care because I could just say, you know what? Fuck it. I need my baby. My heroin. At the very end, I had faked to be sober, right? So many times for so long. My mother wanted me to go to a meeting with her basically to prove that I was doing this, and I did, and I heard this woman talk about her son in this meeting. And she said that her son killed himself 15 years ago. And the day he killed himself, because he was a heroin addict too, his pain stopped. But that's also the same day that hers began. It just touched me deep. You know, that's my spirituality. I mean, that's my higher power talking to me through that woman. I needed to hear that one thing in that meeting. That's it. And I'm looking at my mother and how much I put her through. And I got a rope in my hand, and I'm looking at the rafters because I'm seeing my arm, and I know it's going to fall off. There's no good outcome here. And I think about that woman. I just said, you know what? I'll do it. I'll try. I'll try for my parents. And I just said, God, I'm going to hate being sober. And if I have to live like that and have no family or friends because I've ruined my life, then you're the one that's going to have to fill my shoes with your energy because I'm not getting out of fucking bed in the morning. I've been spending my whole life building this pile of shit, this big mountain that I can't climb over anymore, and it's got all my resentments, it's got all my insecurities, it's got my shame, my guilt, my hate, my anger. It's consuming me. And when I went to bed, it was there. When I woke up, it was gone. Through treatment with my psychiatrist.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah.
What's worked for you?
You know, my psychiatrist I saw for 2.5 years before anything really kicked off. You guys are going into this, and I commend you for that. Thank you for doing what you do, and thank you for continuing. You guys have courage, so I wish you the best of luck at that. But I went to see a couple different psychiatrists, and Dr. Renners, who I ended up going to see. And at the very end, the last person, and I saw him for a long time, about 2.5 years, and he would play this sort of give and take relationship. Like I needed Suboxone every once in a while, right? So I would go in there and I'd ask him for it, and he'd be like, all right, well, you know, this is what you've got to do. You've got to pick up the phone tonight when I call you, because I'd tell him that I'd see it ring, and I'm looking at your name, but I can't do it. I'm not going to pick it up, you know? We do this forever. And when I finally started getting better, like, he was there. You know, I mean, I lied to him. I took his trust and his love. I broke it, you know, and he was still willing to do it, still willing to put his hand up when I needed it. My family was gone. I mean, my parents had to disconnect. Finally, my mother, when they dropped me off at the hospital the very last time, I'm sorry that I'm digressing and going, you know, all over the place here, but when they dropped me off at the hospital last time, like, the look in their eye, right, was just detachment. It was, see you later, you know, and I understood that. And when I went into the hospital, I thought I was the loneliest person in the world, and I'm disgusting, you know, and when I got in there, the staff, they were so nice to me. I had a couple of the doctors that reached out to me that actually took an interest and came down to see how I'm doing and talk to me and maintain relationships. Dr. Renner called me daily, a couple times a day. I'm talking to him about what we're going to do next. You know, promising the world and the stars, you know. I mean, I'm saying these things and not breaking them this time. Now I'm actually following through and I'm going to treatment. I'm doing what I need to be doing.
What kind of skills did you learn in treatment?
I mean, the group things, I guess, a lot.
Yeah.
How to live a sober life. I mean, everything.
Yeah.
You know, I picked up my nurse, and I can say this because she already got in trouble for it.
Yeah.
All right. And I lived with her for a while, you know, and she's got an 11-year-old son who you know, I call my son. He's awesome. You know, this experience was out of my hands. I said goodbye to it. I would never have something like that because my brother won't even let me near his kids because remember I said I'd bite them? They think that anyway. I won't really bite them. But this experience taught me so much. This kid was a lot like me when I was younger, and I'm like, listen, I like this. You know, this works out. I'm like, but it's one child, not five, so I can sort of like give him the attention and keep his mind stimulated. And like, it's just that, between that and Dr. Renner, I mean, I have grown so much. And spirituality, I mean, that's huge. The treatment, like going to meetings and like doing that, I'm hearing things that are getting me through. I'm hearing things that I can take and I can deliver to people for them to hear too. I found my purpose in life. You know, I'm happy. I'm happy today. I'm happier today than I've ever been, and yesterday I said that. Right? Right? Come on. I mean, this is all right. Days aren't always going to be like this, but it is for me. Right now, you know? And I thought that I had untouchable circumstances, that there was no way I could get here, right? And there's so many other kids out there with the same problem. I'm exactly like them. I am that kid, because this happened to me. I went to McDonald's when I was homeless in Boston, right? And it was when they had the dollar menu, and I was getting a burger, okay? I had just enough money to get some dope, all right, and then get a burger. And I went in there, and I had $1, and I put it on the counter for them, and they said it was $1.10 because of tax. There were 10 people standing in line behind me, and since I was dirty and like I was homeless, not one of them offered me 10 cents, and I went hungry that night, right? But I'm here today. If I was wearing this and went in there today, somebody would. I mean, it's amazing when you look at the same face with different clothes on and how they read you. I mean, we're human beings. I mean, that's our nature. That's what we do. But there's somebody out there right now that can have this. They just need to hear something. They need a little bit of love, a little extra love, and nobody else is giving it to them.
What would you want to tell everybody today who's here right now about, you know, how they should act when they see somebody, or any advice that you'd like to give people who are out here right now?
You guys are studying. You're smart. You're doing this for the right reasons. If you have the compassion to do it, I don't imagine you're in here if you don't. But it's going to take a lot. Okay. Your book is going to end. You're going to shut it. Each one of these patients, they're going to have their own unique skills, their set of circumstances, their individual personality, and they're going to need to be treated as such. You're going to need to talk to them, not over them. Human beings, man. Give them a little bit of love. If you have enough love and compassion to give somebody else, a stranger, okay, even if you think, hey, they don't deserve it, they're a dickhead, and you can overcome that and you can give it to them, that's who you guys should be, you know? And if you're not that person, you know, you're doing the wrong thing. We need people out there that are going to be compassionate, that are going to give it. You're doing the work. I call it God's work, when it feels fulfilling and it's just coming through you and you're doing what you should be doing because you're good at it and it feels right. You guys know that feeling, right? Yeah? If you're saying no, then get the fuck out. So.
All right, thanks. I really appreciate it.
Cool.
You know what I'd like to do is open this up to you guys now. What questions do you have for Brad? So obviously this is a guy who's ready to share, right? What questions do you have for him? Right in front, yes.
How do you reward yourself for doing the right thing? I think for so long you spent time maybe being hard on yourself. So what do you do now that you've achieved?
I don't have to. I feel like I received the reward, the feeling. I mean, I get this high from feeling good, that feeling we were just talking about. I get that when I'm doing the right thing. I don't always do the right thing, okay? All right. My lower nature's a bitch. But when I'm doing the right thing, I feel it, you know? I feel it. I don't have to be rewarded. I get to walk around with this feeling of bliss. You know what that is, right? Yeah.
Good. Yes.
Thank you so much for sharing your story. It's been incredibly powerful for me as I'm hearing it, and I'm seeing a fundamental transformation in who you are. You mentioned spirituality and God's work. What does that mean to you?
The higher power thing to me is tremendous. Having something higher than yourself. I think that for anybody in the state, anybody that you guys are dealing with addiction kind of thing, they're going to need to find something bigger than them. They cannot be the conductor, the great conductor. You know, the second I stopped trying to control all the little details about my life, the second everything started coming together. It's like, why didn't somebody tell me that? My mother's like, what? Right? But really, just let it go, man. You know? It's cool. Everything's going to be all right.
Let's try this side of the class over here.
Could you elaborate in your transition into homelessness and then out of homelessness?
Yeah, easily. Out of homelessness, like, that'll take me a while. But into it was very easy. I'll tell you all how to do it, okay? No, I'm just kidding. I was living with my family, and I took some jewelry from my mother that was given to her from her mother. And I brought it to a pawn shop, and I had it pawned so I could come back and buy it, you know? And I had done it several times. I got out of control. I was using cocaine and heroin, and I didn't have enough money to get it back. And I didn't want to lose it, and I don't know why. I mean, I don't know what happened or why I did it, but I told my father that he needed to go pick it up, or he was going to lose it forever. And I said, I'm going to have to go, huh? And he said, yeah. And that was, you know, that was the right thing for them to do, you know, out. And getting back in somewhere was very difficult. I lived at girlfriend's houses on the floor. You know, thank God I could charm. I'm sorry, that's arrogant, but it's true.
Are there moments of weakness where you felt that you were going to relapse, and if so, how do you deal with not?
Okay. When you want to be clean, right, you got to put your hands out, right, and say, I want to use and I want to clean. Now, I want to be clean. I want to be clean more than I want to use. Like, that has to happen. Look, I found something I was good at, and this is it, right? Communicating to other people. I mean, this is something that, this is better than heroin, you know? This gives me that feeling. It's just nice, you know, and this seems to help me right now. You know, my loved ones, my relationships, the things, I can just think about these things. I wouldn't have any of it. People, I have credibility today, right? Like, someone says, don't tell anybody, and I'm like, I'm not gonna, right? These things, you know.
Other questions?
You mentioned like giving someone that little bit of extra love or compassion, and it sounds like you had your family giving that to you and other people. I'm just wondering if there was like a way to do that you felt like kind of helped you get over the edge.
Yeah, all right. When I was in the hospital, look, my family had to detach. I wasn't getting phone calls. Nobody was picking up the phone. They had to let me go. And I had an anesthesiologist and her, I don't know what she's, nurse practitioner, who came in to check up on me. And I had some really, really deep conversations with these people. They just took an interest. They wanted to know me, you know. I had students come in and spend extra time and like just share themselves, you know. Like, tell me about their their studies. Like, tell me about yourself. Like, I want to know about somebody else too, you know. And ask me questions like, Lauren, that's why I know your name, because you did make that impact. Thank you.
And likewise.
Thanks.
Brad, tell people about the meds you're on now, because I think that's an important
That's
part
Dr.
of the
Renner.
story.
He tells me what to do. And I listen now, most of the time, right? This is a new thing for us. It's cool. Yeah, I've been started treatment for ADHD, which is methylphenidate. You guys are familiar with that? Okay, so it's like Ritalin, and Suboxone, which is it's been key. Now, I tried Suboxone by itself for a long time. It didn't work. The methylphenidate, it's the correct dose, and then sertraline, right? So what is that? Zoloft? For my mood swings. Now, with all that crap going on in PTSD, I thought that I really was untouchable. There's nobody out there that's untouchable, you see? Nobody. And they don't know that. Next, anybody?
I was wondering if you can expound just a little bit more about your military service and how that impacts, your past struggles, and also any interaction you might have had with like the VA, whether there were services available, if you
Right.
felt that they were sufficient or, felt short.
Yes, me too. I forgot the first one. Wait, expand on military what?
Your military service.
Okay, I mean, all right, so, all right, I think I got this. ADHD, all right, anyway. All right, so I was in the Marines for 4 years. We did Iraq the first, did somebody say something? Oh, anyway, all right, voices. No, I was in Iraq for 7 months. We got back, and then Hurricane Katrina hit Louisiana. We went down there to do relief, and it was supposed to be search and rescue, but it was more, it was more body recovery, right? And then we marked houses down there, and it was just, it was an experience of its own. It was very sad, frustrating too. But after that, we came home, and then we went on a med float and went to different countries in the Mediterranean, which I experienced getting arrested in several different. If anybody wants to know what it's like getting arrested in Italy, France, and then Cyprus, all right. It's interesting, and it has something to do with drinking too. My military experience kind of goes into a blur a little bit, but especially towards the end. They put me on the beach at the very end as beach patrol, right? What a cake job. I was like, that is awesome, I'm gonna die. So that's when I got out of hand drinking. When I got home, I was having my panic attacks. Now the first thing I did was I went to the VA before I took the pills, okay? And I met somebody over there and he said, listen, that is PTSD. And I didn't want to believe it. I was taught that that's something, I don't got the bug, basically. I don't have that. I don't want that on my record. And it happened a couple of different times. And he's like, he gave me his phone number the first time. He's like, listen, call me when you're serious about this. When you really want to when you want to do something about this. It just looked like a tremendous amount of work when I could just take a pill after I found out, The VA was there. They were definitely there. They want to help you. Now, they can't just give you a pill overnight. It has got to be treatment. They have to do a lot. Dr. Renner couldn't have treated me for ADHD if I wasn't in the hospital under somebody else's care because I was an addict. You see? You can't give me, that's speed. You can't give that to me out in the street, Yeah.
We've got a couple months left. Yeah.
Your progression from alcohol to Percocet, down that spiral, is it always a spiral like that? Does everyone who's gone down that, do they always go down that?
Yeah, honestly, I don't really know anybody who picked up a needle the first time they ever tried something. Yeah. You're not born as a heroin addict.
And then if you happen to know people who are doing that, what would you say to them to kind of stop them from progressing down that way?
I would say, oh, well, they were going that way?
Yeah.
There's a problem, you need to admit you have a problem. I think that's the biggest thing. I started Percocet and I was like, all right, as long as I don't do them every day, I'll be all right. But I would, it's like the thirst, you really want alcohol. And that's ironic. Yeah, so it's like that, you really want it, like you're like craving it all day long. Even though you're not having it, it's like, oh, I'm good because I'm not doing this, I wasn't going to admit I had a problem. Even when I went to rehab after 2 years, I'm standing next to a heroin addict, I'm like, what am I doing in here with this dude? Right? I'm not that. Yeah, I was. Sorry, is this your job?
You
Did
go
I steal
ahead.
your job?
I guess my question is, I think as future physicians and medical students, when we are talking to patients, it's really hard for us to create a motivational interview where we're actually talking to them and trying to assess how much they're using or how much they're drinking.
They're not going to be honest, straightforward with you. Right.
How can we get them to be?
Be very difficult to get an accurate diagnosis. Patience. I think that you need to be creative with every situation. Look, this disease is a fragile situation. We treat it as addiction as its own class, This thing, heroin, okay, is a terminal disease. It is a one-way ticket to death, right? We need to treat it as such. I think it's about 3% come out the other side. Out of 100, that's terminal, right? So, delicacy, it's fragile.
You mentioned a few times that you get to the point where you say, you know what, screw it, whatever. And
I should say fuck it.
But you also said at points nobody told you this or explained that. Do you think that education would have really stopped you, or would it just tell you when you need to ask for help?
You know, I don't know. I'm not sure. I think that, you know what, maybe I would have known about some resources before it got completely out of control. Maybe. I think that I'm the type that would have tried to walk the line anyway, right? But there's people out there like that, you know? I think that if I had education, I would have had somewhere to go with that instead of what happened, you know? So.
You think one of the messages here is don't give up?
Never. You don't give up on an addict until they're dead. Ever. And that's alcohol too.
How's your relationship with your mom now?
Oh my God. Thank you for asking. I got to speak in my parents' church the other day, which is the hardest thing I'll ever do in my life. For several reasons, okay? Because, number one, the minister's daughter is somebody I chased for years. And the minister doesn't have fond memories of that. But we've gotten over that. It's good. So I spoke there, and you know, those people, they have seen me do everything I've ever done in my life. And I got partway through, and I realized, I'm like, oh man, I'm nervous. Like, I'm like, not doing this right, you know? And I'm seeing this guy that, anyway, I'm not gonna tell you his story, but he's falling asleep, and it pissed me off. It just gave me fire, and I'm like, hey! This applies to you, you know? Like, these are the leaders of the communities. These are the people I need to be talking to, you know? These guys are older, like they're 60, they're going into retirement. They're thinking, you know what? That shit didn't touch me. I'm better than that. It's bullshit, okay? Society wasn't the way it was. Things have changed. Drugs are in here like this now. They weren't like that before, okay? And you can shut your eyes, go to sleep, think that you're perfect, but you know what? Your kids are suffering. And if they're not, their kids may be suffering. Somebody is, and they're the ones that can do something about it. So don't go to bed, but don't go to your deathbed without it, okay? Because you're not guilt-free. Your hands are dirty. So let's just, you know, whatever. This is what this is about. We want to clean some things up. Not a revolution, all right? I just want a movement. It's time.
We have time for one more question.
Oh, that is you?
That is you.
So you said that it sounds like your relationship with your parents are a lot better.
Oh, I meant to finish that, by the way. Is this taped? All right. Yeah, so after I was done with that, right, I turn around, and my mother's standing there, and she was bawling her eyes out. Happy tears.
So I was wondering if
I'm glad you said it.
in what capacity were your parents included in your treatment, if at all?
They're included. They're there, man. They love me. So they're there every step of the way. When I was in, like at the very beginning, when I was in West Roxbury, then I went to Brockton, and while I was there, they were coming to visit me. My mother was more so in Brockton, and she came and saw me and saw like the change, and she's like, "Oh my gosh!" And then she'd go home. She's like, "You gotta see him. You gotta see him." And everybody's like, "Yeah," you know, and they all come one at a time, and then everything starts to open back up. And then they gave me a $40,000 car, and they're very happy. I just slipped that right out. I'm like, no, they're letting me use it. They're gonna watch this. I got a ticket in Boston the other day. All right, I did. Sorry, that's a reminder. I want her to find out like this. Anyway, is that
it? Well, Brad, I can't thank you for coming today. This has been great, hasn't it?
Yeah. Oh man,
Thank you.
What a pleasure.